Frank. But to wrap up our first four topics with your still shopping article, people can read the full thing up at dailyfaceoff.com because it is extensive. You went through pretty much half the teams in the NHL here, but there's a handful I really want to zero in on. And I guess because we just talked about them, let's stay in the East and talk a little bit about the Bolts and Panthers in Florida. Florida already made a big splash. Their next move, will it be a big splash or more lowercase, Frank?
More lowercase, just because they don't have that many assets to spend, right? So like your first round picks are gone for a while. Spencer Knight was your best trade chip. You moved him. Now what? You're not really likely to want to pluck someone off of your roster. And I don't see what the need would be to do that. So you've got some cap space. You've got second round picks and beyond, some of them. And you've got a couple minor holes to fill. Like if the Panthers did nothing from here on in now after getting Vitek Vanacek, I think they'd be fine. Mackie Samoskevich has had a pretty good year. Evan Rodriguez, he's been okay. Luosterainen has been fine. Does that mean they couldn't use some scoring punch to take one of those guys and move them further down the lineup and bump an AJ Greer or Jonah Gadjovic out when you get to the playoffs? No, I think that's a totally fair assumption. And also given the fact that this team went out last year and added someone like a Tarasenko, gives you an indication that that's also how they've thought about this roster in the past. So lowercase moves I'd expect from the Panthers, but they've got cap space. And I said this in the story. It's not like you get a refund for it at the end of the year. It's use or lose. So you don't spend it. You don't get to, you don't get anything back for it. So might as well, if you're going to have some, use it.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kyle Palmieri as a fit. They have $5.3 million in cap space. He's a $5 million cap hit. And kind of see how that would line up, and not a guy. They don't have a first-round pick in either of the next two drafts. They have 1 second in the next two drafts. You can maybe see how the value would line up there.
Yeah, and a second plus something else to get Kyle Palmieri for a playoff run. Like, I could see it.
Why not? The other team in Florida, the Tampa Bay Lightning, they do have a few more assets available to them. They have 2 second-round picks this year, no third, but an extra fourth-rounder as well. And then in 2026, they have all their draft picks available to them, rounds 1 through 7. They got 1 pick. So is it safe to say the Lightning, who are shopping for a similar thing, another scoring winger, Frank, could they be looking to maybe swing a little bit harder than Bill Zito and the Panthers?
I have the Tampa Bay Lightning listed as the most aggressive team in the NHL. That list that I sent you, the article is ranked in order from aggressive to not. So they're right at the top. I expect that they're going to make a big splash. Now, cap space is always an issue for them, but they have potentially some players on their roster that they could trade if they wanted to. They could find some roster flexibility. They could also have teams double retain. So here's the thing. The Tampa Bay Lightning for a while now have honed in on one thing and then they go and get it. They've had a really good track record for success. The only outlier is Tanner Jeannot. First, second, third, fourth, and fifth round pick for Jeannot, who, by the way, is playing somewhere else now. So that didn't work. But you know what did work was Barclay Goodrow and Nick Paul and Brandon Hagel, guys that they've also brought in and kept. So Tampa Bay, they seize on something, they see an opportunity, and they go get it. Would an Alex Tuck make sense? Would a bigger swing from someone that, you could keep for a little bit be in line with what Tampa's up to? I think that makes sense. This team, the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, has played like a team that's earned it. They were one of the hottest teams in the league. Vasilevsky's back to being the big cat. And the Team Canada guys from Four Nations, including John Cooper, are riding high. So no reason to sit back. Are the Lightning any less of a bet to get through than the Florida Panthers? Like, I could see those teams going toe-to-toe, so why not? And you've got this roster with these stars. How many more unbelievable years are you going to get out of Nikita Kucherov and Victor Hedman? This is your window, so use it.
Yeah, like eventually, tough times will come. I don't know if it's 2, 3, 4, 5 years away. That's still a mystery. But in the meantime, you're right, Frank. You got these guys who are still producing. Why sit on your hands? Go take some serious swings here. So I love that. Let's wrap on one Western Conference team before we get to our big segment. The most aggressive West team you have listed is the LA Kings, Frank. Tell me the latest on the Kings and their deadline situation here as they appear destined to go up with the Edmonton Oilers again in round 1 of the playoffs.
Yeah, 4 straight years of the Edmonton Oilers in round 1, year 8 of the Rob Blake experience as general manager, and zero playoff round wins. They got work to do, and they're a difference maker away from being able to make noise. Not a prediction, just intel and reporting. If, underline this again, if Mikko Rantanen is available, be prepared for the LA Kings to step up and take a run at him. I think he's a perfect stylistic fit. I think he's a candidate to potentially re-sign there, as good as any other. And he's someone that I think the Kings would bend over backwards to try and acquire. So keep an eye on the Kings doing something a little bit bigger than you might have envisioned. I think they had talked to Nashville at varying points in time this year about some of the guys on their roster. I know that the Kings are hungry to make a splash, and they need to at this point. So don't expect them to sit back. If they do end up doing very little, it's not for lack of trying.
Yeah, I mean, if any market you'd think could convince Mikko Rantanen to forego true unrestricted free agency, it would be an 8-year deal from somewhere like Los Angeles. So it definitely lines up.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Seravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.